In the spring of 2021, a college student named Evan decided to spend a weekend sleeping in his pickup truck deep inside the Deschutes National Forest in central Washington. He drove miles off the main road until cell service disappeared completely. The first night was quiet until just after midnight. Evan woke up to a dull crunching sound circling his truck. At first, he thought it was an animal, but the rhythm was wrong. It sounded like slow, deliberate footsteps. Trying to stay calm, Evan grabbed his dash camera and quietly turned it on. The sounds grew closer. Whoever was outside began walking along the side of the truck, stopping near the doors. Then came a faint tapping, not random, intentional. Moments later, the door handle moved. Evan froze in the driver's seat, barely breathing, as the figure outside tried the back canopy, then pressed their face against the window, leaving a visible smear. For nearly 15 minutes, the person circled the truck in silence. Eventually, the footsteps faded into the forest. At sunrise, Evan drove out immediately. Later, he noticed handprints and scratch marks along the windows and door handles. Clear signs someone had tried to get inside. To this day, Evan never learned who was outside his truck that night. Before we continue, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. This is Crime Hall. The story begins early one morning in southern Colorado. Trail runner Mark Alvarez went out for his usual jog along a narrow canyon path. The trail was empty and quiet until he noticed something small sitting in the middle of the path ahead. It looked like a kitten. Mark pulled out his phone to record, smiling at what he thought was a harmless animal until the kitten stood up. It wasn't a kitten, it was a mountain lion cub. Seconds later, movement appeared from the brush. The mother stepped onto the trail. Mark's breathing instantly changed. As he backed away, the cougar followed, ears pinned back, eyes locked. Every time Mark raised his arms or shouted, the animal crept closer. For nearly 6 minutes, Mark slowly retreated, terrified of turning his back. At one point, he stumbled slightly, and the cougar lunged forward, closing the distance to just a few feet. In desperation, Mark grabbed a rock and hurled it with everything he had. The cougar finally backed off and disappeared into the trees. Experts later said that one wrong move running, tripping, or turning away would have likely resulted in a fatal attack. The story begins. In late 2014, residents living near a wooded area outside Eugene, Oregon, began calling local authorities about a strange noise echoing through the forest late at night. They described it as high-pitched laughter, stretched and distorted, bouncing between the trees. One homeowner followed the sound to the edge of the woods and began recording. What the camera captured was chilling, long, drawn-out shrieks that rose and fell in waves, lasting nearly 20 minutes. Some believed it was wildlife, possibly foxes or coyotes. Others strongly disagreed, saying the volume and tone didn't match anything they'd heard before. No explanation was ever confirmed, and the sounds were never reported again. The story begins. Maya Reynolds ran a travel channel where she documented her solo van life across the United States. Most of her videos were peaceful, quiet nights, scenic forests, and long drives. But one upload from January 2023 was different. Maya had parked her van near a remote clearing in northern Arizona. At around 4 a.m., she woke up to knocking right beside her head. She whispered a hesitant hello. No response. 15 minutes passed in silence. Then she heard footsteps again. This time, she grabbed her camera. A figure moved near the back of the van, circling slowly. When Maya peeked through the front window, she saw headlights in the distance that immediately reversed and disappeared. Minutes later, footsteps returned, closer this time. At daylight, Maya stepped outside and found multiple sets of footprints surrounding her van, stopping near every door. Viewers debated whether it was a thief, but many questioned why someone would return repeatedly after knowing someone was inside. The story begins. A teenage mountain biker in British Columbia set up his phone to record himself riding downhill on a forest trail. As he passed the camera, he suddenly slammed on his brakes and shouted. The boy walked back into frame, eyes wide, dragging his bike behind him. Emerging from the trees was a black bear, calmly following the exact path he had ridden moments earlier. Using his bike to appear larger, the boy struck it against the ground repeatedly. The bear hesitated, then moved toward the camera, knocking it over. For several seconds, the bear stood directly over the fallen phone, before finally retreating into the forest. The boy later recovered his phone and escaped without injury. The story begins. In September 2016, a homeowner posted a video online, claiming it captured an unexplainable sound coming from the woods behind their house in rural Pennsylvania. The noise lasted nearly 20 minutes, steady, metallic, and almost mechanical. It didn't rise or fall like wind, and it didn't resemble any known animal call. Some suggested it could be a nearby radio or cell tower vibrating. Others believed it sounded like metal being drilled deep underground. The homeowner responded that there was no wind that night, and no construction nearby. Years later, the sound remains unidentified, with no similar reports ever surfacing again.